All right, so you've just completed your bedrock map, and now we're going to work on our web soil survey to create our soil map for our field site. So the way that you're going to do this is to go ahead and open up your browser and type in web soil survey and go to the first link there. This is a USDA website through the Natural Resources Conservation Service. They have a bunch of cool mapping tools and a whole bunch of information on their website, but we're just interested in the soil map program, and so you'll click on Start Web Soil Survey, and this will open up a new page for us. Okay, and it has a whole map here, and we want to zoom in on Vermont. You can do this for anywhere in the country, but again, we're just interested in Vermont, so there's a little toolbar up here at the top. We're going to use the top left there for that zoom in icon and just draw a little rectangle, and that'll zoom us into our area of, or not our area of interest yet, but what we would like for our area of interest to be. There's also a little hand here so you can sort of recenter the area that's highlighted. There's also zoom to the full extent so we can go back to our starting view. There's a ruler which will measure a distance between two different spots, so you can figure a total distance, and down here for a segment is 1,000 miles, blah, blah, blah. All right, and then the thing that we want to do is we want to create an area of interest. So we're going to zoom in to our little map here of the Vermont area. And we're down here in the Burlington area, so that's where we want to be. A single click will just move us in closer. And I'm going back to Centennial Woods, where we did the bedrock map from, and now we're starting to get closer. The other thing that you could do on the left there is an address thing for quick navigation. So I could just type in Centennial Woods, Burlington, Vermont, and that'll just center my view around where Centennial Woods is, and Centennial Woods is right here. So I'm just going to refine it a little bit further. Okay, so now I'm zoomed in, and now I need to create an AOI, which is my area of interest. And the area of interest is going to define the borders of the site that we're going to pull data from the soil map into. So I could do one of two ways. One is the little rectangle icon, and I could just draw a rectangle, and that'll include things that are outside of my site because your site is probably not a rectangle. So I'm going to hit escape to cancel that. And what I'm going to do is draw an AOI, and that's a polygon. So I clicked on that, and then this is my rough area, and I'm going to draw my polygon a little bit larger. And you click once, and then draw or move your cursor to the second spot. Click again, and it starts to draw your polygon for you. I'm just going to kind of follow the roads generally. And then on your last spot, you double click. And then it creates the area of interest for you. And you can see it in those little blue hatch marks. And that's looking pretty good for my site. So I've got my area of interest. I've got my map zoomed in where I want it to be. And now I'm going to go to the top, and I'm going to click on Soil Map. And now for my soil map, it's going to fill this in with all the data from the USGS. So this is stuff that hasn't necessarily been ground truth, to mean that somebody hasn't gone out and measured every single little point, but they've estimated based on elevation, based on location, based on slope, and based on some data that has been collected in the field, and they come up with this estimate of what the soils are like at your site. Your sites likely won't be quite this confusing. There's a lot going on in Centennial Woods. So there's quite a few different soil types in this area. This is probably about 180 acres total. Actually, I could look over here. No, I was wrong. So 340 acres. So pretty large, actually. And so it tells you, if you look here, so this is ADA, and the first letter or two are the type of soil, the name of the soil type, and then the last letter is which section of that soil type it is. And so A, B, C, D, E, those just refer to different grades, so how steep that area is. So if we look at ADA up at the top in our legend, we can see this is Adams and Windsor loamy sands. So loamy, again, clay, silt, and sand, but these are loamy sands, so mostly sands. And then that A, the second A in there, means that it's the lowest grade slope, so 0 to 5%. And if you look, that's a soccer field and that's a baseball field, so we would expect there to be almost no slope. And then ADB, which is nearby, this has sort of a gradual slope. There's a little bit more. And then ADE, which is this little zone here, that is a pretty steep slope, and it's the same soil type, so it's made out of the same material, but there's a steep slope to it. And part of the reason there's a steep slope is because this is a little valley that's been carved out by this little brook. So there's a slope here that's an erosional slope from the brook. And you can actually see what's kind of cool is there's ADE that's right here. So on either side of the brook, there's a mirror image of the soil type. So there's that HL, which is the heartland. So there's heartland E slope, so a steep slope there. And then this zone right there is also heartland E. So we can see mirrored on either side of the brook are the same types of soils. And what's kind of cool is if you look, the heartland soils are fine sandy loams. The Adams soils are sandy loams, so either side of the brook are sandy loams. And then the brook itself is the Limerick silt loam. So we've got a different, siltier, clayier soil that's in the middle there. And what's interesting is this is the mucky, wet stuff down in there. And so, yeah, we've got sandy stuff on the sides from the Champlain Sea, and we've got mucky clays and silts that are varved soils from the glacial Lake Vermont that preceded it. There's also some other stuff I'll just point on here. So there's FU down here, and FU refers to fill. And so you'll see this often where there are roads and a lot of construction. So this is the interstate, and fill was brought in. And fill was brought in from borrow pits. And sure enough, over here, there's a little section that says BR. And so that BR is a borrow pit. And so a bunch of those sands were removed from this spot and then piled down on top of, or in this area, which would eventually become the interstate. So that's pretty much all there is to that. You can also click on these all the different things here, and they have descriptions of it. It'll tell you the elevations that these soils are found at, and then some of the conditions at these sites, so annual precipitation, annual temperature, frost-free period, and a bunch of other stuff. So you can get more details on the depth of the soils typically, and how water flows through them. There's a lot of cool stuff in there to be found. All right, so that is essentially the soil map. Pretty easy to use, a lot of details in there. And this one, you can create a screen capture from that. You can also click on a printable version, and this will draw up the map for you to download, and then you'll be able to use this. It downloads it as a PDF, not as an image file, but you can, let's see what this takes us to. Might take a minute to load. Oh, a pop-up blocker. So I'll allow it, and there we go. So this brings up this map here, and then we have some special features, and then of course the most important part is our glossary. All right, so there we go. That's how to find the soils at your site.